Hi, I'm Max Hampton, an associate producer here at Lucasfilm Animation. Welcome to the studio. We're coming up on a really exciting time for us here, our 20th anniversary. We have a ton of great legacy shows to look back on, from the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, Resistance, The Bad Batch, moving on to Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire. We have some really exciting stuff coming up too that we can't talk about just yet, but it's going to be a very exciting another 20 years for us. Today what we wanted to talk about was how we take an iconic character like Ahsoka Tano and bring her through the whole pipeline. What's really cool about Ahsoka, which you might not know about, is that she actually started here with us. She was created for the Clone Wars, and today we wanted to talk about how we take an iconic character like Ahsoka and bring her to life, starting with design, story, assets, animation, and lighting. So come on in, let's get started.
Hi, my name is Chris Wasden. I'm a Senior Asset Technical Director here at Lucasfilm Animation. I am a part of the team that helps build the assets that we will see in our shows. And I'm going to take you a little bit at the beginning of the process, from the scripts down to how those assets are constructed, and then pass that on to our animation team. Now, when a script is created, the designers will then take a look at the script and see what needs to be created for that episode. It could be a character, it could be a prop, it could be a vehicle, it could be environment, it could be all kinds of things that become a part of the episode. And before we can build that in 3D, we need to have a detailed blueprint about how those things should be constructed to make our job a lot simpler and more straightforward to make. And on this example here, we have a number of these design sheets that were built for Ahsoka on Tales of the Jedi Season 1. And on these sheets, you'll notice a lot of information that helps with our job. Some things you might expect, like color, proportions of the character, but you'll also see things like small details. They could be geometric details or materials if they are wearing clothing, or have different skin tones than what we would see in the real world. All kinds of information that are stored on this sheet, and these blueprints are what we use to help make decisions about how those things should be created and then decided further along as we're going through the process of building these in 3D. One thing that's been really interesting about Ahsoka is because Ahsoka was a character that originated inside of, or at Lucasfilm Animation back at the beginning of Clone Wars, we've had a lot of opportunities to see Ahsoka all throughout the years. And that's given us the chance to revisit her over and over again, and to be able to make new decisions about what do we want to tweak, what's working right now, what do we want to change a little bit so that Ahsoka stays fresh. So this, on the left, is Ahsoka from Clone Wars Season 1. On the right is Tales of the Jedi Season 1. These are meant to be similar characters, similar in age, with a slightly different outfit, but you can see the difference in the detail and what we were using for original Clone Wars, and now what we see over here in Tales of the Jedi. There's a lot more richness of color, there's a lot more interest in all of the smaller areas. And that continues through all of the different examples of Ahsoka that we have here today. Another aspect that we support is for our storyboarding team. We produce a simpler version of the character. You'll notice it also has those controls on it. You can move around and pose them. This is given to our storyboarding team so that they can start fleshing out the episode and putting the emotion into the screen. And we're going to turn over to David to talk about that.
Hi, I'm David Myers. I'm a senior story artist at Lucasfilm Animation, and today I'm going to be talking about what I do as part of the process to develop Ahsoka as a character. So basically, when we are given a script, it'll say in the script sometimes that within the scene, Ahsoka is going to be approaching this character in a certain way. We have to go and figure out with the staging how to make her look the most heroic, how to make things work believably, and also just logically within the story. And as we do it, for instance, the script will ask for this village to be on fire because the Inquisitor has, caused destruction. Ahsoka then will enter, and in this particular part of the sequence, he's going to approach her and actually attack her. So when we animate, we just do rough posing like it shows here. And I like to look at all the angles to kind of make sure that my posing and everything is also clear on both angles. And then I'll go in and create cameras like this one here where you can see an angle of a certain moment of the fight, and then I'll cut to a different angle, or create a different camera, in other words, of this moment, the same exact moment. And as soon as I create that footage, then I try to see, does this actually work together? Does this make sense? What are the things that I need to, close in on and actually look at in order for the story to be more believable and emotional and entertaining at the same time? And so then we end up with this sequence where we cut and use all these camera angles and footage and put it together, almost like a puzzle, like you're trying to make it work together so that it makes sense why the characters are doing what they're doing. And then, of course, what would be the best angle for this triumphant moment of Ahsoka killing the Inquisitor and winning? Once we collaborate with our directors and we get all the revision notes and polish our sequence, it's then sent to Dave Filoni to approve for final approval and cut. And then after that, we send it off to animation with Keith and go from there and use it as a template for the rest of the process.
Hey all, my name is Keith Kellogg. I'm the animation director here at Lucasfilm Animation. I've been here about 15 years or so now. I've worked here pretty much since second season of Clone Wars all the way up through what we're currently working on. So lots of different shows, lots of different characters. To make it really simple, my main job is to make sure that everything you see on screen moving is moving correctly and moving the way we want, and really causing the right emotion to come out of our audience in order to really make our characters come to life. That's really what animation is really about making characters come to life. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit after what David just showed you from story. When we go into the shots department, basically we go from story into layout. So it's our first example of seeing our character go from this story version to this layout version. And then we get her into animation. So you've talked with Chris already about assets a little bit, and he kind of talked you through what we call a rig. The rig allows us to move Ahsoka. So basically, if I wanted to take her arm, I could lift her arm up and have her wave. If I want to make sure that she's looking in a certain place, I could make sure that I grab her eyes and I move her eyes where I want them to be. So kind of going in and really making sure that emotion is there. That's really what my main job is. Sometimes I'll do that by actually shooting myself in video reference and giving that to our overseas team to look at as a starting point. A lot of times it's notes. We generally get about 60 to 80 shots in a day as we're working throughout the day. So notes are a huge portion of what we do, handing back to our team. Here's the example sort of a shot of Ahsoka, and you can kind of watch her emote and sort of what she comes to life as I hit play. So basically seeing, what she's going through and all those little ticks from like the little bit of eye movements and the little bit of lip press and little bit of nose movement, anything in here are all being done by all of these different controls. So we have body controls and we have facial controls. And an animator's responsibility is to take those controls and make what you see here come to life so that you really believe what Ahsoka is feeling in this moment. And it's been really pretty amazing to go all the way from just what you've seen in story, all the way up through layout to animation. We really like to pride ourselves on every department kind of plussing everything just a little bit. So from script all the way through, by the time you get to animation, we hopefully deliver a good performance. And then we hand it off to our lighting team, and the lighting team takes it that next step. And then you can see here when the shot is fully lit and done, with textures like you'd seen from Chris already and our design team, with the story that you've seen from our story team, with us adding the actual bit of emotion and love into it, and then our lighting team takes over, and this is what you get in the end.
Hi, I'm Alex Shawless, and I'm the Senior Technical Director in Lighting and Effects at Lucasfilm Animation, and I'm here to show you how we take the animation we get from Keith and his department into lighting. First, we start with something called a lighting concept, which is a 2D painting our lighting color key artist does to give us a vision for how we want the shot to be once we take it into production. In this first episode with Ahsoka for Tales of the Jedi, it's her as a baby, so we wanted to keep the light very wondrous and childlike. So a lot of the colors are bright and saturated, and everything has this magical kind of glow. And I'll just take you through some of these, a little more zoomed in. So these are all 2D paintings. They are just flat in Photoshop, and our job is to actualize them into 3D space. So I, as a lighting artist, when I get given a shot, it might kind of look like this, where it's just the proxy, or like what we got from the story department, so it's not lit yet, and we'll use that as a basis to start adding lighting layers on top. And then we add the matte, which is the painting that goes in the background. So it's a lot prettier than just flat shaders. Then here I'm adding the beach and the rocks and the water, all of which have been treated as well separately. Add some haze so that Ahsoka stands out on top and that it feels like a beach. And then we start adding more rocks, some general color grading, and some footsteps so that she looks like she's actually walking along the sand. And then we add the characters on top, and then you get a final shot, and it's fully lit. Now I've taken you all the way through our lighting process, all the way from lighting color keys to final frame. And this is how we take a character like Ahsoka through her journey, and we hope that you love her as much as we do. In the next step, you'll get to see her on Disney+.
One of our favorite things about seeing Ahsoka is seeing the finished product. Having all the work done here and then seeing her on the big screen is just fantastic. And you can catch that work too. Check out all of our shows that we've seen today and more on Disney+. See you next time.